What would you do if you caught your fiancé in the arms of your maid of honor just hours before your wedding day? Would you storm in and create a scene? Or would you quietly walk away? That's exactly the choice facing 28-year-old event planner Sarah Chen at her rehearsal dinner. But what nobody knew was that Sarah had been harboring a secret of her own, one that would turn a simple betrayal into the unraveling of a multi-million-dollar conspiracy. What started as the worst night of her life would become the key to exposing crimes that powerful people had killed to keep hidden. And by morning, the woman everyone thought they knew would change the lives of thousands. Before we dive into this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from. Sarah Chen had spent 3 years planning other people's perfect weddings, but nothing had prepared her for the collapse of her own. At 28, she was finally living what seemed like her dream life. Engaged to Marcus Wellington, a successful pharmaceutical executive, with their lavish wedding just 24 hours away. The rehearsal dinner at the exclusive Grandview estate should have been a celebration of their future together. Instead, it became the night everything shattered. The evening had started beautifully. 60 guests gathered in the estate's glass pavilion, overlooking manicured gardens lit by thousands of fairy lights. Sarah wore the emerald dress Marcus had bought her in Paris, her dark hair swept up elegantly. She moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations and fielding last-minute questions about tomorrow's ceremony. Her maid of honor, Jessica, had been strangely absent for the past hour, but Sarah assumed she was handling some wedding detail. Earlier that week, Sarah had received a cryptic email from someone claiming to be a former colleague of her late father. The message had warned her to be careful who you trust, and mentioned something about Chang Technologies, her father's company. She dismissed it as spam, but now the words echoed in her mind. It was Sarah's teenage cousin, Mia, who inadvertently changed everything. "Sarah, I think you should know something," the 16-year-old whispered, pulling her aside near the dessert table. "I saw Marcus go into the wine cellar with Jessica like 20 minutes ago, and they haven't come back." Sarah felt her stomach drop, but she forced a smile. "They're probably just selecting tomorrow's champagne," she said, though even she didn't believe it. The wine had been chosen months ago. The walk to the wine cellar felt eternal. Sarah's heels clicked against the marble floors as she descended the stairs, each step heavier than the last. She could hear voices before she reached the door, low, intimate murmurs that made her chest tighten. Through the slightly open door, she saw them. Marcus had Jessica pressed against the wine racks, his hands tangled in her blonde hair, their bodies intertwined in a way that spoke of practiced familiarity. Sarah's first instinct was to scream, to burst in and destroy them both. But something held her back. Maybe it was the 3 years of watching brides handle crisis after crisis with grace. Maybe it was something deeper, a survival instinct that told her there was more at stake here than a broken heart. Maybe it was that cryptic email warning her about trust. She stepped back into the shadows, pulling out her phone to record through the crack in the door. Their conversation drifted out clearly in the quiet cellar. "We should get back," Jessica murmured against Marcus's neck. "Sarah will notice." "Let her notice," Marcus replied with a coldness Sarah had never heard before. "After tomorrow, I'll have access to everything. Chang Technologies' entire portfolio will be under my control." Sarah's blood ran cold. Chang Technologies was her late father's company, now run by her uncle. As his only child, Sarah had inherited a significant stake, but she'd never been involved in the business, preferring her creative career. The shares would indeed transfer to Marcus upon marriage. It was part of the prenuptial agreement his lawyers had insisted on for tax purposes. 3 years of pretending to love that naive little princess, Marcus continued, but it'll be worth it. Once we have control of her father's patents, Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals will pay us millions. They've been trying to acquire those insulin delivery patents for over a decade. And her uncle? Jessica asked. He'll be handled. There are ways to remove obstacles. Sarah's hand shook as she continued recording. This wasn't just infidelity. They were discussing corporate theft and possibly worse. Her uncle had mentioned concerns about hostile takeover attempts, but she'd never imagined the threat was this close to home. She backed away silently, her mind racing. Returning to the dinner, she plastered on her brightest smile, accepting toasts and laughing at jokes while her world crumbled internally. No one suspected the storm brewing behind her calm exterior. She even hugged Jessica when she returned, disheveled but quickly composed, apologizing for her absence with a lie about a catering emergency. As the evening wound down, Sarah knew she had a choice to make. She could confront them now, create a scandal that would be gossip fodder for years, or she could play a longer game. Because if Marcus and Jessica were willing to fake a 3-year relationship for money, if they were connected to something larger involving Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals, then perhaps her heartbreak was just the beginning of a much bigger story. The cryptic email suddenly made sense. Someone had tried to warn her. Someone who knew what was coming. As guests began to leave, Sarah made her decision. She would not be a victim. She would be a weapon. Sarah barely slept that night in her childhood bedroom at her mother's house. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus with Jessica, heard his cold words about their 3-year charade. Her wedding dress hung on the closet door like a ghost, its delicate beading catching the moonlight. The grand ballroom at the Grand View was decorated. 500 guests were arriving from around the world, and $200,000 had been spent on what was supposed to be her perfect day. At 5 a.m., her phone buzzed with texts from her wedding coordinator, her makeup artist, her photographer, all confirming their arrival times. Each message felt like a knife twist. Sarah stared at her engagement ring, a 3-carat diamond that now felt like a shackle rather than a symbol of love. She pulled out her laptop and searched for the email from earlier that week. The sender was listed as D. Chang 1965@protonmail.com. The full message read, "Your father was my friend. Be careful who you trust. The patents are worth more than you know. They will do anything to get them." A friend who remembers. Her mother Linda knocked gently. "Sweetheart, you need to start getting ready. The hairstylist will be here in an hour." Sarah opened the door, her face puffy from crying. Linda took one look at her daughter and knew something was terribly wrong. "What happened?" "I can't do this, Mum," Sarah whispered. "I can't marry him." Linda Chen was a formidable woman who'd raised Sarah alone after her husband's death in a car accident. 15 years ago, she guided Sarah to sit on the bed. "Tell me everything." Sarah showed her mother the video from the wine cellar. Linda's face hardened as she watched, her expression turning from shock to fury to something more calculating. "Those bastards," Linda said quietly, "using my daughter to get to David's company." David was Sarah's father, a brilliant engineer who developed several groundbreaking patents before his death. His brother, Robert, had taken over the company, growing it into a small but innovative firm specializing in affordable medical devices. "What do I do, Mom? Call off the wedding?" If I do that, everyone will want to know why. The scandal will what? Embarrass you? Sweetheart, these people are planning something much worse than embarrassment. Linda stood, pacing. Your father always said that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Marcus just showed you he's capable of a 3-year deception. What else is he capable of? Sarah's phone rang. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. She stared at it, paralyzed. Answer it, Linda advised. Act normal. We need time to think. Sarah took a deep breath and answered. Good morning, baby. Morning, beautiful. Marcus's voice was warm, loving, a perfect performance. I can't wait to marry you today. I just wanted to hear your voice before the craziness starts. I can't wait either, Sarah managed, her mother squeezing her hand for strength. I love you. Love you too. See you at the altar. After hanging up, Sarah rushed to the bathroom and vomited. The stress, the lies, the fear, it was all too much. When she emerged, her mother was on the phone. Robert, it's Linda. We need to talk about Sarah's prenup yesterday, before the wedding. It's urgent. Sarah listened as her mother arranged an emergency meeting with her uncle. Robert had always been protective of Sarah, treating her like his own daughter. He'd been hesitant about the prenuptial agreement, but had agreed when Sarah insisted she trusted Marcus. We're not going to let them win, Linda said after hanging up, but we need to be smart. If Marcus is connected to Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals, we're dealing with a company worth billions. They don't play fair. Mom, in the video, they mentioned handling Uncle Robert. What if they mean, I know what they might mean. That's why we need to document everything and protect ourselves. But Sarah, there's something else to consider. If you call off the wedding now, they'll know you're onto them. They might accelerate whatever plan they have. Sarah felt trapped. Every option seemed dangerous. So what do I do? Marry him? Linda was quiet for a moment. What if you did? What if you went through with it but protected yourself legally first? Robert can help with that. And then we gather evidence of what they're really planning. You want me to marry someone who's using me? Who might be planning to hurt Uncle Robert? I want you to survive this and protect our family. Sometimes that means playing a role until you can strike back effectively. Linda's eyes were fierce. Your father's company has developed treatments that could help millions of people. If Radcliffe gets control, they'll either bury the research or price it out of reach. This is bigger than just your broken heart, sweetheart. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She wasn't just a jilted bride anymore. She was standing between corporate predators and her father's legacy. She thought about the anonymous email, about someone out there who knew the truth and had tried to warn her. She wasn't entirely alone in this. There's something else, Sarah said, showing her mother the email. Someone knew this was happening. Someone who knew Dad. Linda studied the message, her expression thoughtful. D. Chang. David had a colleague named Dr. Evelyn Chang. They worked together on several projects. If she's still alive, she might be our ally in this. Sarah felt a spark of hope, an ally who understood the technical value of the patents, who might have evidence of Radcliffe's past attempts to steal them. Can we find her? Robert will know. But first, we need to get through today alive. Linda stood, straightening her shoulders. Put on your armor, sweetheart. Time to go to war. The meeting with Uncle Robert took place in his home office at 7 a.m., while the wedding preparations continued around them. Robert Chen was a thin, serious man who dedicated his life to continuing his brother's work. When Sarah showed him the video, his face went pale. "My God, Sarah, this explains so much." He pulled out a folder from his safe. "I've been getting buyout offers from shell companies for months. They've been increasingly aggressive. Last week, someone broke into our lab. Nothing was stolen, but files were clearly searched." "You think it's connected to Marcus?" Sarah asked. "Radcliffe has been trying to acquire our insulin delivery patent for years. We've refused because they want to increase the price by 400%. Marcus knew this. I told him about it at dinner last month. He seemed supportive of our decision to keep prices low." Robert's hands shook with anger. "That prenup gives him controlling interest if anything happens to you or me." "What do you mean, if anything happens to me?" Robert showed her the agreement. "In the event of your death or incapacitation, your shares transfer to your spouse. Same. If I die, my shares go to my next of kin, which would be you, then to your spouse by extension." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about stealing the company, it was about creating a clear path to ownership regardless of obstacles. "We need to void this agreement," Linda said firmly. "It's too late. It's legally binding once signed, which Sarah did months ago. The only way to prevent the transfer is to not marry him or—" Robert paused, thinking, "or to transfer the shares to a trust before the marriage. But it has to be done carefully, in a way that doesn't alert them immediately." "Can we do that today?" Sarah asked. "I know someone who might help. Judge Patricia Williams. She was a friend of your father's. She's one of the few judges in this city not in Radcliffe's pocket. But Sarah, will need a valid reason for such an urgent transfer." "How about the truth?" Sarah suggested. "That I discovered my fiancé is part of a conspiracy to steal the company." Robert shook his head. "Without concrete evidence beyond the video, it's your word against his, but—" He pulled out another document. "There's a provision for transferring shares to a charitable trust for tax purposes. It's complicated, but it could work." Sarah's phone buzzed. Jessica was texting. "Where are you?" "The makeup artist is here and we can't start without the bride." "I have to go," Sarah said. "They'll get suspicious if I'm not there." "Wait." Robert opened another drawer and pulled out a small recording device. "Wear this. If they're planning something for today, we need evidence." "And Sarah?" "I've been in touch with someone who might be our ally. Dr. Evelyn Chang. She worked with your father. She's been investigating Radcliffe's activities for years. She's coming to the wedding as my guest." Sarah felt a surge of hope. The mysterious email sender would be there. "She warned me, didn't she? The email. She's been trying to protect you from afar. Your father saved her career once, stood up to Radcliffe when they tried to destroy her. She's never forgotten." Robert hugged his niece. "Be careful today. If they realize you know—" "They won't," Sarah said with more confidence than she felt. "I've been planning weddings for 3 years. I know how to put on a show." The ride back to her mother's house felt surreal. Her phone rang constantly. Vendors, guests, everyone needing the bride's attention. Each call required her to sound excited, joyful, in love. By the time she arrived, she was exhausted from the performance. Jessica was in the living room, surrounded by the other bridesmaids, champagne already flowing despite the early hour. "There you are," she exclaimed, rushing to hug Sarah. "I was getting worried. You can't get cold feet now. Marcus would die." Sarah returned the hug, smelling Marcus's cologne on her former best friend. Just had to handle some last-minute family business. You know how Uncle Robert is about contracts. Jessica's eyes sharpened for just a moment before her bubbly mask returned. Well, you're here now. Let's get you gorgeous for your big day. As the makeup artist worked on her face, Sarah studied Jessica in the mirror. They'd been friends since college, roommates for 2 years. How long had this betrayal been going on? Had any of their friendship been real? Jess, Sarah said casually, I'm so grateful you introduced me to Marcus at your company party. It's like it was meant to be. Oh, honey, I knew you two would be perfect together the moment I thought of it, Jessica gushed. But there was something in her tone, a private joke Sarah wasn't supposed to understand. The photographer arrived, taking getting-ready shots. Sarah smiled, laughed, posed with her bridesmaids. Every image a lie, every moment a performance. The recording device Robert had given her was tucked into her bustier, its weight a constant reminder of the danger she was in. Her phone buzzed, with a text from an unknown number. Beautiful day for a wedding. Hope nothing ruins it. RP Sarah's blood ran cold. RP. Richard Patton, the CEO of Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals. They knew. Somehow, they knew. Linda appeared at her shoulder, reading the message. Could be a coincidence, she said loudly, for the benefit of anyone listening. Then, quietly in Sarah's ear, Robert's security team is in place. Judge Williams filed the trust paperwork an hour ago. Your shares are protected. But as Sarah stepped into her wedding dress, she'd never felt more vulnerable. In 2 hours, she would walk down an aisle toward a man who'd been lying to her for 3 years, who might be planning her death. She would smile for 500 guests, cut a cake, share a first dance, all while gathering evidence that could bring down a conspiracy involving billions of dollars. The seamstress made final adjustments to the dress, each pin like a small armor piece being put in place. Sarah looked at herself in the mirror. Beautiful, radiant, every inch the perfect bride. No one could see the warrior underneath. You look stunning, Jessica said, and for a moment genuine emotion flickered across her face. Marcus is so lucky. Yes, Sarah agreed, meeting her eyes in the mirror. He has no idea just how lucky he's about to get. The breaking point had arrived. In 1 hour, Sarah would either expose a conspiracy or become its next victim. But she was done being passive. Done being the naive princess Marcus thought she was. Her father had fought Radcliffe and lost. But he'd raised a daughter who would finish what he started. The bridal suite at the Grandview estate was a flurry of activity. Sarah sat in the center of it all, an eye of calm in the storm of preparation. While her bridesmaids chattered and the photographer captured every moment, her mind was racing through possibilities. The trust paperwork was filed, protecting her shares, but she needed more evidence. Something concrete that would expose not just Marcus and Jessica, but the entire conspiracy. It was then that her wedding coordinator Diane approached with an unexpected guest. Sarah, there's someone here who insists on speaking with you privately. She says it's urgent, about your father. Behind Diane stood a woman Sarah didn't recognize. Asian, early 50s, dressed in an elegant but understated suit. But her eyes were familiar from old photographs in her father's office. This had to be Dr. Evelyn Chang. I'll just be a minute, Sarah told her bridesmaids, following the woman into an adjacent room. My name is Dr. Evelyn Chang, the woman confirmed once they were alone. I worked with your father at Chen Technologies 15 years ago. I sent you that email warning, but I wasn't sure you'd received it. I've been trying to reach you for weeks, but your fiancé's security kept intercepting my messages. His security? Sarah's mind reeled. Marcus doesn't have security. He does. They've been monitoring your communications, redirecting certain calls and emails. I had to come in person today because I knew they couldn't stop me at such a public event. Evelyn pulled out a tablet. What I'm about to show you might be disturbing, but you need to know the truth about your father's death. Sarah's hands trembled as she took the tablet. On screen were documents she'd never seen before, police reports, witness statements, mechanical analyses of her father's car accident. The official report said brake failure, Evelyn continued. But look at this independent analysis I commissioned. The brake lines weren't worn. They were cut, professionally. The kind of job that would fail at high speed on that particular mountain road. The room spun. Sarah gripped the table for support. You're saying my father was murdered? I believe so. And I believe it was connected to his refusal to sell certain patents to Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals, the same patents they're now trying to acquire through you. Evelyn's expression was grim. But there's more. Your father wasn't just developing an insulin delivery system. He was working on something bigger, a universal vaccine platform that could prevent multiple diseases cheaply. Radcliffe wanted to bury it because it would destroy their treatment-based profit model. But Marcus and I met 3 years ago. My father died 15 years ago. That doesn't... Radcliffe plays a long game, Evelyn interrupted. When direct acquisition failed, they wait. They plan. Your engagement to Marcus Wellington isn't a coincidence. He's been groomed for this role since he joined Radcliffe 7 years ago. They've been planning this for a decade, waiting for you to be the right age, the right vulnerability. Sarah felt sick. How do you know all this? Because I've been investigating your father's death ever since it happened. He was my mentor, my friend. I left Chang Technologies because I suspected the company had been infiltrated, but I never stopped searching for the truth. Evelyn pulled out a flash drive. This contains everything I've gathered. Financial records showing payments from Radcliffe to Marcus going back years. Emails discussing Project Chang. That's you, Sarah. You're not just marrying a liar. You're marrying into a conspiracy that killed your father. Why should I trust you? Sarah whispered, though her heart told her this woman was sincere. Evelyn pulled out a photograph. Her father, younger, standing with a group of scientists. Evelyn was beside him, both smiling at some long-ago celebration. Because your father trusted me. And because if you go through with this wedding without protection, you won't live to see your first anniversary. The prenup ensures that. They'll wait a respectable few months, then you'll have an accident, just like your father. A knock at the door interrupted them. Sarah, Jessica's voice called. It's almost time. Hide this, Evelyn urged, pressing the flash drive into Sarah's hand. There's a federal prosecutor named James Morrison who's been building a case against Radcliffe for years. He needs witnesses, evidence. This could be the breakthrough he's been waiting for. My number's on the drive. Call me when you're safe. Why now? Sarah asked. Why not come forward years ago? Because I was scared. Because they threatened my family. But seeing them target David's daughter, Evelyn's eyes blazed with determination. I can't stand by anymore. Your father died trying to make healthcare affordable for everyone. Don't let his dream die with you. The door opened and Jessica peered in. Sarah, we really need to... She stopped, noticing Evelyn. Who's this? An old family friend. Sarah said smoothly, slipping the flash drive into her bodice alongside the recording device. She knew my father. I invited her to the wedding. Jessica's smile was tight. How lovely. But we need our bride now. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. As Evelyn left, she squeezed Sarah's hand. Your father would be proud of your strength. Whatever you decide, be careful. And remember, you have allies you don't even know about yet. People who've been waiting for someone brave enough to stand up to Radcliffe. That person could be you. Back in the main suite, Sarah's mind was fracturing. Her father murdered, Marcus connected to his killers, a conspiracy spanning decades, and in 15 minutes she was supposed to marry into it all. You okay, honey? Linda asked, noticing her daughter's pallor. Mom, Sarah whispered, it's so much worse than we thought. But there was no time to explain. The photographer was posing them for final shots. The videographer was adjusting his equipment. Jessica was straightening Sarah's train with the practiced hands of someone who'd done this before. How many times? How many brides had she prepared while secretly working for their destruction? Ladies, it's time, Diane announced. The bridesmaids lined up, bouquets in hand. Sarah's heart hammered as she prepared to walk toward either her doom or her opportunity for justice. The flash drive pressed against her ribs, a small, hard reminder of the truth she now carried. Ready, sweetheart? Linda asked, preparing to walk her daughter down the aisle in place of the father who should have been there, the father who'd been murdered for refusing to let greed triumph over humanity. Sarah thought of her father, killed for trying to help people. She thought of his patents, his dreams of affordable healthcare, about to be buried forever. She thought of Evelyn, risking her safety to bring her the truth. She thought of all the families who couldn't afford the medicines that Radcliffe kept expensive. I'm ready, Sarah said. And for the first time all day, she meant it. She wasn't walking toward a wedding. She was walking into battle. And she finally had the weapons she needed to fight it. The wedding march began, and Sarah Chen stepped out to face her destiny. 500 guests rose to their feet, but Sarah barely saw them. Her eyes were on Marcus at the altar, the man who'd helped murder her father. The man who planned to murder her. But he'd made one mistake. He'd underestimated her. They all had. The naive princess was about to show her claws. The ballroom doors opened to reveal 500 guests rising to their feet. The orchestra swelled with the wedding march as Sarah began her walk down the aisle. Each step calculated, each smile precisely measured. Through her veil, she could see Marcus at the altar, looking handsome in his custom tuxedo, his expression, the perfect picture of a man in love. If she hadn't seen him with Jessica last night, if she didn't know about the conspiracy, if she didn't have evidence of her father's murder pressing against her ribs, she might have believed it herself. The scene aisle seemed endless. Sarah noticed details she'd missed before. Several guests she didn't recognize, all seated strategically throughout the room. Uncle Robert's security, she hoped, though they could just as easily be Radcliffe's people. She spotted Dr. Evelyn, Chang near the back, giving her the slightest nod of encouragement. Jessica stood at the altar with the other bridesmaids, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. The performance of a lifetime, the supportive best friend crying at her friend's happiness, while helping to orchestrate her murder. Sarah wondered if those were tears of guilt or anticipation of their payday. As Linda placed Sarah's hand in Marcus's, She whispered something only her daughter could hear. "Your father is with you. Be strong." Marcus lifted Sarah's veil, his blue eyes warm with what looked like genuine emotion. "You're breathtaking," he murmured, and Sarah had to remind herself this was the same man who'd called her a naive little princess 12 hours ago. The officiant began the ceremony. Sarah heard the words as if from underwater, her mind cataloguing exit routes, identifying potential threats, planning contingencies. When it came time for the vows, Marcus went first. "Sarah, you came into my life 3 years ago and changed everything," he began, his voice carrying perfectly through the ballroom. "Your kindness, your trust, your generous heart, they've made me a better man. I promise to cherish you, to protect you, and to build a future together that would make your father proud." The mention of her father made Sarah's blood boil. How dare he invoke the man his associates had murdered? But she kept her expression soft, loving, even as rage built inside her. Then it was her turn. She had memorized traditional vows weeks ago, but now, looking into the eyes of her father's killer's pawn, different words came. This was her leap of faith, not into marriage, but into war. "Marcus," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "You've shown me so much these past 3 years. You've taught me that things aren't always what they seem, that sometimes the people closest to us carry the biggest secrets." She saw a flicker of something, concern, cross his face. "But I've learned that truth has a way of revealing itself, no matter how deeply it's buried. Today I promise to honor that truth, to protect what my father built, and to ensure his legacy lives on. I promise to be exactly who I was meant to be, not who others expect me to be." The ballroom was silent. Her vows were unconventional, almost ominous, but no one dared interrupt. Marcus's smile had become fixed, uncertain. Behind him, Jessica shifted nervously. "The rings?" the officiant prompted. As they exchanged rings, Sarah noticed Marcus's hands were steady, while hers trembled. He was used to deception, comfortable with it. She was walking a tightrope over an abyss, and everyone could see it. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." This was it, the moment of no return. Sarah had legally bound herself to a man who wanted her dead, who had conspired to murder her father, who planned to destroy everything her family had built. The leap was complete. As Marcus leaned in for the kiss, he whispered something only she could hear. "Welcome to the family business, princess." The kiss was brief, perfunctory. The crowd erupted in applause as they turned to face their guests as Mr. and Mrs. Wellington. Sarah smiled brilliantly, waving to friends and family, all while her mind screamed warnings. The recording device captured Marcus's whispered threat. Evidence was building. During the recessional, Jessica walked behind them and Sarah heard her murmur to another bridesmaid, "Stage 1 complete. More evidence. Keep recording, keep smiling, keep walking." The cocktail hour was a blur of congratulations and photographs. Sarah played her part flawlessly, but she noticed things. Marcus checking his phone repeatedly, Jessica disappearing for long stretches, several of the unknown guests having hushed conversations in corners. The security Uncle Robert had promised was there too. She recognized some of them now, trying to look like regular guests but clearly on alert. "Darling," Marcus said during a brief moment alone, I need to handle some business. There's been a development with the Chen Technologies situation. On our wedding day? Sarah asked, feigning disappointment while her pulse quickened. It won't take long. Seems your uncle is trying some last-minute legal maneuvering. Nothing we can't handle. He kissed her forehead condescendingly. Don't worry your pretty head about it. Sarah watched him walk away, pulling out his phone. They'd discovered the trust transfer. Good. Let them scramble. She activated her recording device again and made her way toward a group of Marcus's business associates she'd noticed earlier. Told Patton the timeline was too aggressive, one was saying, but he insisted it had to be today. Once the marriage is legal, we move fast, another replied. The uncle's the only real obstacle. Without him, the wife inherits everything, and Wellington controls the wife. For a while, anyway. The first man chuckled darkly. Patton says 6 months maximum. Tragic accident. Grieving widower inherits everything. Clean. Sarah forced herself to keep walking, to not react to hearing her own death being planned so casually. The recording device was getting everything. She had to trust it was enough. She was intercepted by Dr. Evelyn Chang, now dressed as a wedding guest. Bathroom. Now, Evelyn said quietly, while appearing to offer congratulations. In the bathroom, Evelyn looked grim. They've accelerated their timeline. My sources say Radcliffe has people moving on your uncle's lab tonight while everyone's at the wedding. What? But Uncle Robert has security, not enough. And some may have been compromised. Sarah, you need to make a choice. Play along and risk your uncle and the patents, or blow it all open now. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Robert. Attempted breach at lab. Security handled it. Are you safe? She showed Evelyn, who nodded grimly. First attempt. There will be others. They're getting desperate. Then we end this tonight, Sarah decided. I have the recording from last night, your evidence, and what I've captured today. It has to be enough. There's one more thing, Evelyn said, pulling out a small device. GPS tracker. They'll likely try to isolate you after the reception. If you disappear, we need to be able to find you. Sarah tucked the tracker into her shoe, a high-heeled weapon she'd dance in later while her enemies plotted her death. How did my life become a spy movie? The moment you were born a Chen, Evelyn replied. Your father's work threatens too many powerful interests. They were always going to come for it. Marcus was just their latest strategy. Back at the reception, Sarah found Jessica and pulled her aside. I need my maid of honor's help, she said, sweetly. Marcus seems stressed about some business thing. What's going on? Jessica's eyes calculated quickly. Oh, you know how men are about work. Even on their wedding day. I'm sure it's nothing. It's about Uncle Robert's company, isn't it? Sarah pressed, playing naive. Marcus mentioned something about patents. I don't really understand all that business stuff. Jessica relaxed, buying the act. Don't worry about it, honey. After tonight, you won't have to think about any of that boring business ever again. Just focus on being a beautiful bride. After tonight, Sarah repeated innocently. Jessica caught herself. I just mean, you know, once you're married, Marcus. We'll handle all that complicated stuff. That's what husbands are for, right? As Jessica walked away, Sarah felt the recording device capture every word. The noose was tightening around the conspirators' necks, and they didn't even know it. The reception continued. Dinner, toasts, all the traditional elements of a wedding, masking the danger underneath. During Marcus's best man speech, filled With inside jokes Sarah now recognized as references to their scheme. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. Your uncle's security missed one. Check the kitchen. Sarah excused herself, ostensibly to thank the catering staff. In the kitchen she found chaos, staff rushing everywhere, no one paying attention to the woman in the wedding dress. But in the back corner, she spotted him, one of the unknown guests from the ceremony, speaking urgently into a phone. Yes, the lab is secured for entry. 2 hours once the reception ends and everyone's drunk. The uncle will be handled quietly. Make it look like a heart attack. The bride, honeymoon accident. Tragic, but these things happen. Boats already prepped at the marina. Sarah backed away, her heart pounding. They were planning to kill her, tonight. Her uncle too. The wedding had been a trap to gather all their targets in one place. She had to act. Now. But first, she needed to survive the next 2 hours. Walking back to the ballroom, she plastered on her brightest smile. The first dance was announced, and she took Marcus's hand, letting him lead her onto the floor as their song began to play. You look pale, darling, Marcus noted as they swayed. Nervous about tonight? Just excited, Sarah lied, meeting his eyes. I can't wait to start our life together. He smiled, pulling her closer. Neither can I. By tomorrow morning, everything will be different. Yes, Sarah thought, feeling the weight of the evidence she carried. Everything would indeed be different. Just not the way Marcus Wellington and Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals had planned. The song ended, the guests applauded, and Sarah smiled for the photographers. 2 hours to survive. 2 hours to gather final evidence. 2 hours before she brought their entire conspiracy crashing down. The leap of faith had been taken. Now came the landing. The first dance ended to thunderous applause. Sarah maintained her smile as she and Marcus returned to the head table, but her mind was racing. She had less than 2 hours before they planned to murder her and Uncle Robert. She needed help, and she needed it fast. I'm going to freshen up, she told Marcus, kissing his cheek for the photographers still circulating. In the bathroom, she pulled out her phone and sent a coded text to her mother. Dad's favorite song. Now, it was their emergency signal. Linda would know to gather Uncle Robert and get him somewhere safe. She also sent a message to the number Evelyn had given her. Kitchen staff confirmed timeline, 2 hours. They planned to make it look like accidents. As she opened the bathroom door, she nearly collided with someone, a server carrying a tray of champagne. But something was off. His shoes were too expensive for catering staff, and there was a subtle bulge under his jacket. Security or assassin? Mrs. Wellington, he said, and the use of her new name sent chills down her spine. Mr. Wellington asked me to bring you this. A special toast just for the bride. Sarah looked at the single champagne flute on his tray. Poisoned? Drugged? Either way, she wasn't drinking it. How thoughtful, she said, taking the glass. I'll enjoy it back at the table. The man's eyes narrowed. He insisted you drink it here for luck. Sarah's smile never wavered. Well, we can't refuse luck on my wedding day. She raised the glass to her lips, then pretended to stumble in her heels. The champagne splashed across the marble floor. Oh, how clumsy of me. These shoes are impossible. The fake server's jaw tightened. I'll get you another. No need, Sarah said brightly. I should get back. People will wonder where the bride went. She swept past him, her heart hammering. In the mirror-lined hallway, she caught his reflection. He was already on his phone, reporting the failed attempt. Back in the ballroom, Uncle Robert was at his table, deep in conversation with someone. As Sarah approached, she realized it was Judge Patricia Williams, the one who'd helped with the trust paperwork. They both looked concerned. "Sarah," Robert said, standing to hug her. "Beautiful ceremony. Patricia was just telling me some interesting news about Radcliffe's recent legal maneuvers." "Nothing that should concern a bride on her wedding day," Judge Williams said, but her eyes were serious. "Though perhaps we should talk privately." They moved to a quiet corner, away from the music and chatter. "I've been reviewing some old cases," the judge said quietly, "including your father's accident. Did you know there was a witness who later recanted their statement?" Sarah's pulse quickened. "What witness?" "A truck driver who claimed to have seen another vehicle force your father's car off the road. He changed his story 2 days later, said he was mistaken. But here's the interesting part. 3 weeks after that, he paid off his mortgage in full. Cash. You think he was paid off? I think a lot of people were paid off, or threatened, or both." Judge Williams glanced around nervously. "I shouldn't be telling you this, but after what Robert shared about your current situation, be very careful, Sarah. Radcliffe's reach goes deep." "Sarah," Jessica's voice cut through their conversation. "There you are. It's time for the cake cutting." Sarah excused herself, but not before Judge Williams pressed a business card into her hand. "My personal cell. If you need help, legal or otherwise, call me. The cake cutting." Sarah remembered what happened in movies when brides were poisoned. It was always the cake or the champagne. But they'd already tried the champagne and she'd avoided it. Would they be so obvious as to try again? The massive 5-tier cake stood like a monument to excess, covered in sugar flowers that had taken weeks to create. Marcus was already there, smiling for the photographers, playing the perfect groom. "Ready, darling?" he asked, his hand finding the small of her back. They posed for photos, Marcus's hand over hers on the knife. As they pressed down together, Sarah felt a sharp prick on her palm. Looking down, she saw a tiny needle protruding from the knife handle, a drop of blood welling on her skin. Her vision immediately began to blur at the edges. Whatever was on that needle was fast-acting. "Oops," Marcus said, his voice full of false concern. "Careful, sweetheart. We can't have you getting hurt on our special day." Sarah's mind raced. She had minutes, maybe less, before whatever drug they'd used took full effect. She needed to get somewhere safe, somewhere public, somewhere with witnesses. "I need air," she said, swaying slightly. Only partly an act. "Of course." Marcus's smile was triumphant. "Let's get you to the bridal suite. You can rest there." "No." Sarah pulled away, using her genuine dizziness to seem dramatically unwell. "The terrace. Please, I need air." They were attracting attention now. Guests murmuring in concern as the bride stumbled toward the terrace doors. Perfect. Witnesses would make it harder for Marcus to control the situation. The cool night air helped clear her head slightly. The terrace overlooked the estate's gardens, beautifully lit for the reception. But Sarah wasn't looking at the view. She was scanning for escape routes, for help, for anything. "Better?" Marcus asked, but his phone was buzzing insistently. He checked it, his face darkening. "Interesting. Your uncle seems to have left the reception, along with that judge." So Robert had gotten her message and escaped. One small victory. "That's good," Sarah managed, her words beginning to slur. "He wasn't feeling well." "Neither are you, apparently." Marcus's mask was slipping, revealing the cold calculation beneath. "Don't worry, Dr. Morrison is on her way." "Doctor?" Sarah's heart sank. Of course, they'd have a medical professional ready to declare whatever happened next as natural causes. "Mrs. Wellington?" A woman in an elegant pantsuit appeared, definitely not dressed for a wedding. "I'm Dr. Helen Morrison. Your husband called me when you began feeling unwell. Let's get you somewhere you can lie down." "I didn't call any doctor," Sarah said, looking at Marcus, making sure nearby guests heard her. "Of course you didn't, darling. You're not well. Dr. Morrison specializes in sudden illnesses. She'll take excellent care of you." Sarah understood. This was how they planned to do it. A medical professional to declare her death natural, probably from some undiagnosed condition. "Tragic bride dies on her wedding night," the headlines would write themselves. "I want my mother," Sarah said, playing up her weakness while her hand found her phone in her dress pocket. "She's handling the guests," Marcus said smoothly. "We shouldn't worry her." Sarah managed to hit the emergency contact she'd programmed earlier. It would send her GPS location to Evelyn, her mother, and Uncle Robert simultaneously. The tracker in her shoe was insurance, but this was immediate. "Come now, Dr. Morrison," said, producing a wheelchair from somewhere. "Let's get you comfortable." As they wheeled her inside, Sarah caught sight of her reflection in the terrace doors, a bride in a wheelchair, her elaborate dress pooling around her, being taken away from her own reception. But in her eyes, despite the drugs, burned a fierce determination. They thought they had her. They thought their plan was working perfectly. They were wrong. The recording device was still running, capturing every word. The GPS tracker in her shoe would lead help to her. And somewhere in the night, Uncle Robert was safe and Evelyn was mobilizing allies. As the elevator doors closed, separating her from the ballroom full of oblivious guests, Sarah smiled. "What's so funny?" Marcus asked sharply. "Just thinking about my father," Sarah said honestly, "about how proud he'd be." Marcus's face went very still. "Your father is dead." "Yes," Sarah agreed as the elevator rose toward the bridal suite. "And before tonight is over, everyone will know who killed him." The drug was hitting harder now, but Sarah held onto consciousness through sheer will. She'd made it this far. She'd gathered evidence, protected the patents, saved her uncle. Now, she just had to survive long enough for help to arrive. The first discovery phase was complete. The conspirators had revealed themselves, shown their hand. They thought they were predators, circling wounded prey. They were about to learn that even wounded, a Chen could still fight. The bridal suite was a trap disguised as luxury. As they wheeled Sarah inside, she catalogued every detail through her drug-hazed vision. 2 exits, both now blocked by Marcus's people. Windows that didn't open. A beautiful prison decorated with roses and champagne she'd never drink. "Leave us," Marcus commanded once Sarah was transferred to the bed. Dr. Morrison and the security detail stepped outside, but Sarah knew they wouldn't go far. Marcus loosened his bow tie, finally dropping his loving groom facade. "You know, I almost believed you today. Those vows, that was quite a performance." Sarah let her head loll against the pillows, playing up the drug's effects while keeping her mind sharp. "Not performing, no." He laughed coldly. "Then you're an even bigger fool than I thought." He pulled out his phone, checking messages. "Your uncle's escape was impressive, but ultimately pointless. We have contingencies. By morning, Chen Technologies will still be ours." "How?" The word came out slurred. but Sarah genuinely wanted to know. The trust protected her shares. Marcus sat on the bed beside her, stroking her hair in a grotesque parody of affection. "Oh, didn't you know? There's a clause in the trust. If you're declared mentally incompetent, control reverts to your spouse for management. Dr. Morrison is prepared to make that diagnosis. Tragic, really. Bride has a psychotic break on her wedding night, has to be institutionalized for her own safety." Sarah's blood ran cold. They'd found a loophole. "My father," Sarah managed, "was a stubborn fool, just like you." Marcus's hand tightened in her hair. He could have been rich. Instead, he chose to be noble. Look where that got him. Driven off a cliff by professionals who made it look like an accident. Though I hear he survived the initial crash. Had to be finished off at the scene. Messy business. Sarah bit her tongue to keep from reacting. He was confessing to murder, giving her details she'd never known. The recording device was getting everything. The door opened and Jessica entered, having changed from her bridesmaid dress into sleek black clothing. "The guests are leaving. Your mother's looking for her. Tell her the bride wasn't feeling well. Needed to rest." Marcus stood, all business now. "Is everything prepared?" "The boat's ready at the marina," Jessica confirmed. "Tragic honeymoon accident. Bride falls overboard, body never recovered. Clean and simple." Sarah's heart raced. They were planning to dispose of her at sea. No body, no evidence, no investigation. "What about the uncle?" Marcus asked. "Team 2 is in position. Once we confirm the bride is handled, they'll move." Jessica glanced at Sarah with something almost like regret. She really was sweet. "I almost feel bad. Remember when she helped me through my mum's death? Stayed up all night with me holding my hand?" "Don't get sentimental," Marcus warned. "She's just collateral damage. Her father should have sold when he had the chance." "Speaking of which," Jessica said, pulling out a tablet, "we have a problem. Some of the Chang Technologies researchers have been uploading files to cloud servers all evening. Massive data dumps, like they're trying to preserve everything offsite." Marcus swore. "They know something. Can we stop it?" "Not remotely. We'd need physical access to the servers, then we move now. Forget the boat, too risky if they're onto us. We'll handle her here, make it look like an overdose. Tragic bride. Depressed about something. We'll figure out the story later." Through her eyelashes, Sarah saw Jessica check her phone. Her expression changed. "Marcus, look at this. Someone named Dr. Evelyn Chang just posted on social media she's claiming to have evidence about David Chen's murder. It's going viral." Marcus grabbed the phone. "How is that possible? We dealt with Chang years ago." She was supposed to stay quiet. Well, she's not quiet now. She's posted documents, financial records, everything. And she's tagged major news outlets. Sarah felt a spark of hope. Evelyn had gone nuclear, putting everything online where Radcliffe couldn't suppress it. "Kill it," Marcus ordered. "Call our people at the platforms. Get it taken down." "I'm trying, but it's spreading too fast. People are screenshotting, sharing. Marcus, we need to abort. If this links back to us, it won't." Marcus's voice was ice. "We stick to the plan. By the time anyone investigates, we'll have alibis, documentation, whatever we need. Radcliffe has handled worse." The suite's phone rang. Marcus answered impatiently. "Yes?" His face went white as he listened. "What do you mean, federal agents? How many?" A pause. "Seal the building. No one leaves." He hung up, turning to Jessica. "FBI agents just entered the hotel. Someone tipped them off." Sarah felt a surge of hope. Her emergency message must have worked. Help was coming. Could be routine, Jessica suggested without conviction. A wedding this size, important guests. We're blown, Marcus decided. Get Morrison in here. We accelerate everything. Fatal overdose, tragic accident, whatever works. I'll handle the feds with our lawyers. Marcus, if we kill her now with FBI in the building, we're not killing anyone. She's having a medical emergency. Morrison's a real doctor. The drugs are real. Sometimes people just die. He looked at Sarah coldly. Especially when they're genetically predisposed to mental illness and substance abuse. Sarah's mind raced. They were going to frame her, create a medical history that didn't exist, paint her as unstable. Even if the FBI arrived, it might be too late. Jessica opened the door to call Dr. Morrison, but instead of the doctor, Linda Chen stood there, flanked by what looked like hotel security, but moved like professionals. Step away from my daughter, Linda commanded. Marcus reached for something in his jacket, a gun, but Linda was faster. I wouldn't. My friends here are all off-duty federal marshals. Robert hired them weeks ago when we suspected something was wrong. This is a private suite, Marcus said, trying to maintain control. My wife is ill. She needs medical attention. She needs to be away from you. Linda moved to the bed, checking Sarah's pulse. Sweetheart, can you hear me? Mom, Sarah managed. They killed Dad. Marcus just confessed. We know, baby. We heard everything. Linda held up her phone. You weren't the only one recording. Uncle Robert's been in the security office, watching the feeds from cameras we installed yesterday during the setup. We have video of them drugging you, planning your murder, all of it. Marcus lunged for the phone, but the marshals were on him in seconds. Jessica tried to run, but more security appeared in the doorway, blocking her escape. Marcus Wellington. Jessica Lang, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and about a dozen other charges I'll let the FBI explain, one of the marshals said. You can't do this! Marcus struggled against the restraints. I want my lawyer. This is entrapment. She's clearly unstable. Look at her. What I see, Linda said coldly, is a brave young woman who risked her life to expose your crimes and succeeded. FBI agents flooded the suite, led by a woman Sarah recognized from photos, Agent Diana Foster, who Evelyn had mentioned was investigating Radcliffe. Mrs. Chen? Foster approached Sarah carefully. I'm Agent Foster. We're going to get you to a hospital. Get that drug out of your system. You're safe now. The evidence, Sarah mumbled. Recording device, flash drive, in my dress. We'll secure everything. Dr. Chang is already at our field office, providing her files. Combined with what you've gathered, we have enough to bring down not just these two, but potentially the entire conspiracy. As paramedics arrived to treat Sarah, she watched Marcus and Jessica being led away in handcuffs. 3 years of lies ended in one night of truth. Mum, Sarah said as they prepared to move her. How did you know to come? Linda smiled through her tears. Evelyn called me the moment you sent that emergency signal. She said if they were moving against you, we had to act immediately. She also said to tell you your father would be proud. You did what he couldn't. You exposed them all. As they wheeled Sarah out, wedding guests were still clustered in the lobby, phones out, recording everything. By morning, the story would be everywhere. The fairy tale wedding that revealed a murderous conspiracy. One more thing, Agent Foster said, as they loaded Sarah into the ambulance. Richard Patton was arrested an hour ago. He's claiming he knew nothing about this, but your evidence suggests otherwise. This is far from over, but tonight you won. Sarah, closed her eyes, finally allowing exhaustion to claim her. The mystery of her father's death had been solved. The conspiracy was exposed. She'd lost a fiancé, but saved her family's legacy. The ambulance pulled away from the Grandview estate, leaving behind the ruins of a wedding that had become something so much more. In trying to destroy her, Marcus and Radcliffe had created their own downfall. The truth, as her father always said, was worth more than all the money in the world. And tonight, truth had won. Sarah woke in the hospital to find her room filled with flowers, not from well-wishers but from Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals. Each arrangement came with the same card. Get well soon. We should talk. R.P. Richard Patton. Despite his arrest, his lawyers had already gotten him released on a $50 million bail. Subtle, said Agent Diana Foster, who'd apparently been standing guard. She was photographing each bouquet. He's letting you know he's still free and knows exactly where you are. It had been 2 days since the wedding. Marcus and Jessica remained in federal custody, their bail denied due to flight risk. The media was in a frenzy, with two competing narratives battling for dominance. Brave bride exposes corporate murder plot versus Radcliffe's counter-narrative. Mentally unstable woman orchestrates wedding day hoax. They're attacking your credibility, Linda said, showing Sarah her tablet. Radcliffe's PR machine is working overtime. They've got 3 psychiatrists claiming you show signs of delusional disorder. They're saying you drugged yourself for attention. Sarah read the headlines with growing anger. Despite video evidence, despite Marcus's recorded confession, Radcliffe was trying to rewrite reality with money and influence. They leaked my college counseling records, Sarah said, seeing an article about her seeking therapy after her father's death. How is that even legal? It's not, Foster said. But by the time we prove they did it, the damage is done. Classic E. Radcliffe playbook, destroy the witness's credibility before trial. A knock interrupted them. Uncle Robert entered, looking haggard but determined. We have a bigger problem. Someone leaked our entire patent portfolio to the media, but they're claiming it's proof we stole research from Radcliffe years ago. What? Sarah sat up too quickly, making her head spin. The drugs had mostly cleared her system, but she still felt weak. That's impossible. They've produced documents, obviously forged, showing joint research agreements from the 90s. They're seeking an injunction to freeze all Chang Technologies operations pending investigation. Robert's face was grim. If they succeed, we can't produce or distribute any of our affordable treatments. Thousands of patients will suffer. Sarah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Miss Chen. The voice was cultured, elderly, but with an undertone of steel. Richard Patton. I believe it's time we spoke directly. Your employees tried to murder me, Sarah said flatly. We have nothing to discuss. My employees? I think you're confused. Marcus Wellington was a rogue actor pursuing his own agenda. His actions were entirely unsanctioned. The lie was smooth, practiced. I'm calling to offer you an opportunity to end this unpleasantness. Foster was gesturing for Sarah to keep him talking while she traced the call. I'm listening, Sarah said. Full ownership of Chang Technologies, free and clear. $50 million for your pain and suffering. All charges against Mr. Wellington. And Miss Lang dropped naturally. They'll disappear. New identities, new countries. You'll never see them again. And my father's murder? A pause. Accidents happen, Miss Chen. Even to careful men. But dwelling on the past helps no one. Your father wouldn't want you to waste your life fighting battles you can't win. You didn't know my father, didn't I? David Chen was brilliant but naive. He thought he could change the world with good intentions and cheap medicine. Look where it got him. Don't make his mistakes. Sarah felt her anger building. His only mistake was not exposing you sooner. Perhaps. But consider this, your recording of Mr. Wellington's confession. My lawyers will tear it apart, coerced, they'll say, manipulated by a woman scorned. The video evidence? Deepfakes are so convincing these days. Your friend Dr. Chang, she has a history of mental illness we're prepared to document extensively. You're threatening her now. I'm explaining reality. You're a single woman with limited resources fighting a corporation with unlimited funds. We have judges, politicians, media outlets. What do you have? The truth? He laughed softly. Truth is what money says it is, Miss Chen. Then why offer me anything? If you're so confident you'll win. Because I'm a practical man. Trials are messy, expensive, unpredictable. I prefer clean solutions. You have 48 hours to accept my offer. After that, well, I'd hate to see Chen Technologies destroyed in legal battles. All those patients depending on affordable insulin. Such a shame if production had to stop. The line went dead. Foster looked up from her equipment. Got him. He's calling from his office at Radcliffe headquarters. Arrogant bastard. That afternoon, the opposition's campaign intensified. Linda's flower shop was suddenly cited for 17 different violations. 3 major suppliers cancelled contracts with Chen Technologies, citing ethical concerns. Several key researchers received job offers from competitors at triple their salaries. But the worst came that evening. Dr. Evelyn Chang was involved in a car accident. Her brakes had allegedly failed on the same mountain road where David Chen had died 15 years earlier. She's alive, Foster reported from the hospital. Broken ribs, concussion, but she'll recover. She was smart, drove into a guardrail instead of off the cliff. They're recreating my father's murder, Sarah said, feeling sick, sending a message. We've posted guards on everyone connected to the case. But Sarah, Radcliffe has resources we can't match. They can hire professionals, create accidents, manufacture evidence. We need to consider protective custody for you and your family. No. Sarah's voice was firm. That's what they want. Us hiding, afraid, unable to fight back. We need to go on the offensive. How? Linda asked. They control the narrative. They have the money, the connections, but we have something they don't, Sarah interrupted. The truth. And people who've been waiting for someone to stand up to Radcliffe. She thought of her father's colleagues, researchers who'd been silenced or bought off over the years. How many had evidence they'd been too afraid to share? How many families had lost loved ones to Radcliffe's greed? Agent Foster, how many unsolved cases does the FBI have that might connect to Radcliffe? Foster hesitated. Officially, none. Unofficially, dozens. Scientists who died mysteriously, researchers who vanished, whistleblowers who suddenly recanted, but without concrete evidence. What if we could get that evidence? What if people knew they weren't alone, that others were ready to speak up? It's dangerous, Robert warned. Anyone who comes forward becomes a target. We're already targets, Sarah pointed out. All of us. But maybe together, we're too many to silence. That night, despite Foster's objections, Sarah recorded a video from her hospital bed. No makeup, no filters, just a woman who'd survived an assassination attempt speaking directly to the camera. My name is Sarah Chen. 5 days ago, I discovered my fiancée was part of a conspiracy to murder me for my father's medical patents. That conspiracy goes all the way to the top of Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals. They killed my father 15 years ago. They tried to kill Dr. Evelyn Chang yesterday. They're threatening everyone I love. She held up the flowers Patton had sent. Richard Patton thinks money can buy silence. That fear will keep us quiet. But I'm done being afraid. If you've lost someone to Radcliffe's greed, if you have evidence, you've been too scared to share. Now is the time. We're stronger together than alone. She looked directly into the camera. Mr. Patton, you asked what I have besides the truth. I have something you'll never understand. People who believe medicine should heal, not bankrupt. People who think lives matter more than profits. And every threat you make, every bribe you offer, every accident you arrange, just proves we're right. To anyone watching who's been silenced by Radcliffe, you're not alone. Contact the FBI, share your evidence, tell your story. They can't kill us all. Within hours, the video had millions of views. Chen Truth began trending globally. The hospital's switchboard was flooded with calls from journalists, supporters, and, most importantly, other victims ready to speak out. But Radcliffe struck back immediately. 3 major social media platforms removed the video, citing false information. Mainstream news outlets received threatening letters from Radcliffe's legal team. Sarah's medical records from her brief therapy in college were fully leaked, painting her as unstable. They're scared, Foster observed, watching the corporate response. This level of panic means we're hitting close to home. Sarah's phone rang. Patton again. That was very foolish, Miss Chen. Was it? How many people have contacted the FBI since? My video? How many families are coming forward? Temporary hysteria. It will pass. But you've made things unnecessarily difficult. I'm withdrawing my offer. You want war? You'll have it. By the time we're done, Chen Technologies will be a memory, and you'll be in prison for fraud, defamation, and whatever else we decide to charge you with. Looking forward to it, Sarah said. Oh, and Mr. Patton, you might want to check your company email. I believe you'll find some interesting messages from the FBI about those forged documents you submitted to the court. She hung up on his surprised silence. The opposition had emerged from the shadows, powerful and ruthless. But for the first time in 15 years, they were being forced to fight in the light. The war was far from over, but Sarah Chen was no longer fighting alone. The war room was set up in a secure wing of the FBI field office, transformed into a command center for what Agent Foster was calling Operation Truth Serum. In the week since Sarah's video, over 200 people had come forward with information about Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals. The walls were covered with timelines, connecting threads between suspicious deaths, suppressed research, and financial crimes spanning 3 decades. Look at this, Dr. Evelyn Chang said, still moving carefully due to her injuries but refusing to rest. She projected a document onto the screen. Internal Radcliffe memo from 1987. They identified 12 researchers worldwide whose work threatened their insulin monopoly. Your father was number 3. Sarah studied the list. 7 names had red X's through them. All dead. Within 5 years of making breakthroughs that would have made insulin affordable. Car accidents, sudden illnesses, 2 suicides that friends say made no sense. Evelyn's face was grim. The pattern is undeniable. Agent Foster added another piece to the puzzle. We've been analyzing the financial records from Marcus's laptop. He was sloppy, kept everything. Look at this payment. She pulled up a bank transfer. 2 days before your father's death, Radcliffe paid $2.3 million to a company called Prometheus Solutions. What's Prometheus Solutions? Linda asked. Officially, a private security firm. Unofficially, corporate mercenaries, the kind you hire when you need problems permanently solved. Foster highlighted more transactions. Similar payments coincide with the deaths of 5 other researchers on that list. Sarah felt sick, but vindicated. So, we can prove Radcliffe ordered the hits. We can prove they paid Prometheus. Connecting that to specific murders is harder. But Foster smiled grimly. Marcus kept recordings of his calls with Radcliffe executives, including one very interesting conversation with Richard Patton Jr. from last month. She played the audio. Marcus's voice filled the room. The Chen. Girl trusts me completely. 3 years of investment about to pay off. Then another voice, younger than the Richard Patton Sarah had spoken to. My father's getting impatient. We need those patents. After the wedding, she'll be handled. Clean, like her father. Make sure. We can't afford another Chang situation. That woman's been a thorn in our side for 15 years. The recording ended. Richard Patton Jr., Foster identified. Current CEO, son of the chairman. This directly links the family to the conspiracy. Sarah's phone buzzed. One of the volunteers screening messages for the investigation. You need to see this email, the volunteer said. It's from someone inside Radcliffe. The message was from a generic email address. I've worked in Radcliffe's legal department for 10 years. I've watched them destroy lives for profit. I can't do it anymore. I have documents, the real Chen research agreement, proof it was forged, recordings of meetings where murders were discussed, but I need protection. They kill whistleblowers. A friend on the inside. It could be a trap, Robert warned. Or it could be the break we need, Foster countered. I'll arrange a secure meeting, if this person is legitimate. That afternoon, while Foster coordinated with the potential whistleblower, Sarah worked with other victims who'd come forward. Each story was heartbreaking. Diabetics who'd lost homes paying for insulin, families who'd watched loved ones die because they couldn't afford treatment, researchers whose careers were destroyed for trying to create affordable alternatives. They didn't just kill people, said Dr. James Morrison, whose partner had died under suspicious circumstances after developing a cheap insulin synthesis method. They killed hope, made us all afraid to even try helping people. Sarah was documenting his story when Lily Chen burst in. Not a relative despite the shared surname, but a brilliant young hacker who'd volunteered her skills to the investigation. I found something huge, Lily announced, pulling up financial records on her laptop. Remember Prometheus Solutions? I traced their payments. They're not just taking money from Radcliffe. They're paying judges, police commissioners, even FDA officials. It's a whole network of corruption. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about Radcliffe. It was about a system that let them operate with impunity. There's more, Lily continued. I found their internal communications from the night of your wedding. They knew you were recording. They have someone inside the FBI. Foster's face went white. What? Look. Lily showed encrypted messages. Someone warned them about the raid timing. That's why Marcus and Jessica were so calm when arrested. They knew exactly what evidence we had and didn't have. Who's the mole? Foster demanded. Still working on that. But whoever it is has been feeding them information for years. Every time someone tried to investigate Radcliffe, this person sabotaged it from within. Sarah felt the walls closing in. How could they fight an enemy that had corrupted the very systems meant to deliver justice? Her phone rang. The potential whistleblower using a voice disguiser. I need to know you can protect me. They've killed 17 people that I know of. I have families to think about. What's your name? Sarah asked gently. Call me Robin. I've been documenting everything, for 5 years, hoping someone would be brave enough to use it. Your video gave me hope. What kind of evidence do you have? Everything. Meeting recordings where they discussed murdering your father. Financial records showing bribes to officials. The real insulin patents they've been suppressing. Not just your father's, but dozens of others. Proof they've been deliberately keeping insulin expensive while sitting on cheap alternatives. Sarah's heart raced. This was the smoking gun they needed. But there's something else, Robin continued. Something worse. They're planning a major operation. They call it market consolidation. They're going to eliminate every remaining threat to their monopoly. There's a list of 30 researchers and activists. Your name is at the top. When? Sarah asked, her blood running cold. Soon. Days, maybe. They're panicking because of your investigation. Richard Patton held an emergency board meeting yesterday. I heard him say, clean slate. Whatever it costs. Foster took the phone. This is Agent Foster. We can protect you, but we need that evidence immediately. I'll upload it to a secure server. But I want witness protection for me and my family. New identities, relocation, the works. Done. Send the files. An hour later, they had it all. Terabytes of data that painted a picture of corporate evil beyond their worst imaginations. Videos of board meetings where executives casually discussed murder. Spreadsheets calculating how many people would die if they kept insulin prices high versus the profit margins. Emails joking about thinning the diabetic herd. My God, Evelyn whispered, reading through the files. They knew exactly how many people would die, and they chose profits. But the most damning evidence was a video from 2007. Richard. Patton saw himself in a board meeting discussing David Chen. Chen's universal vaccine platform would destroy half our revenue stream, Patton said on the recording. The insulin delivery system alone would cost us billions. Handle it like we handled Morrison and Williams. Make it look accidental and make sure his research disappears. Another board member asked, what about his family? Monitor them. If his daughter shows any interest in the company or the patents, we activate the contingency plan. I don't care if it takes 20 years. That research dies with Chen. Sarah watched her father's murder being ordered with the same casual tone. Someone might use to order coffee. Linda held her as she shook with rage and grief. We have them, Foster said quietly. This is enough to bring down the entire company. But their victory was short-lived. Lily's monitoring system started screaming alerts. They're mobilizing. Prometheus just activated multiple teams. They're moving on everyone on that list tonight. How do they know we have the files? Foster demanded. Then they saw it. A message on the screen from Robin. I'm sorry. They have my son. The whistleblower had been compromised. Radcliffe knew everything. We need to evacuate everyone immediately, Foster commanded. Safe houses for all targets. Full protective details. No, Sarah said firmly. We end this now. They want to silence 30 people tonight. Let them try. But make sure every move they make is documented. Every team they send is tracked. Let them commit their crimes while the world watches. That's insane, Robert protested. You're using people as bait. I'm giving them a choice, Sarah corrected. Hide and live in fear forever, or stand together and end this tonight. She grabbed her phone and started another live stream. Richard. Patton, I know you're watching. You just activated your death squads. You think you can kill 30 people and make this go away? I have news for you. We're ready. Every person on your list has been notified. Every law enforcement agency has been alerted. Your Prometheus teams are walking into traps. She held up a tablet showing the leaked files. Oh, and those files your compromised whistleblower told you about? They're already copied and distributed to news outlets worldwide. The Washington Post, The Guardian, the New York Times, they all have everything. Your board meeting where you ordered my father's murder, it goes live in 1 hour. On cue, Lily triggered the mass release. Suddenly, every major news site had the story. Social media exploded with leaked documents. The evidence was everywhere, unstoppable. Sarah continued her broadcast. You spent decades building an empire on suffering and death. Tonight we tear it down. To anyone from Prometheus watching, your employers are finished. Walk away now, or go down with them. Foster's phone rang constantly. FBI units reporting attempted attacks being intercepted. Would-be assassins surrendering rather than face certain arrest. The coordinated assault was falling apart, but in the war room a new alert flashed. Incoming threat, Lily announced. Prometheus team approaching this building. They're coming for us. Foster drew her weapon. Everyone to the secure room, now. As they rushed to safety, Sarah realized this was it, the final confrontation. Radcliffe had sent their best to silence the investigation's heart. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd threatened the wrong family. And now, with the world watching and evidence spreading like wildfire, there was nowhere left to hide. The investigation had reached its crescendo. Time to see who would survive the night. The FBI field office went into immediate lockdown. Red lights flashed as steel shutters slammed down over windows. Sarah found herself in the secure room with Agent Foster, her mother, Uncle Robert, Evelyn, and Lily, watching monitors as Prometheus operatives surrounded the building. 12 hostiles confirmed, the security chief reported over radio. Full tactical gear. They're not even trying to hide anymore. Foster coordinated the response. All units hold position. Let them make the first move. Everything needs to be by the book. We're being watched by the world. Sarah's live stream was still running, now showing the FBI building's exterior cameras. Millions watched as masked mercenaries took positions. The comments scrolled by too fast to read, but the sentiment was clear. Outrage that a corporation would openly attack federal law enforcement. Incoming call, Lily announced. It's Patton, Sarah answered on speaker. Richard Patton's voice was no longer smooth, controlled. He sounded desperate, unhinged. You've destroyed everything. 40 years of building Radcliffe, gone because of one stupid girl. Because of one murderer who thought money made him untouchable, Sarah corrected. It's over, Patton. Your own board is abandoning you. Stock's down 90%. Countries are freezing your assets. It's not over until I say it is. Call off the media, delete the files, or I'll burn that building down with everyone in it. You're threatening to attack a federal building on a live broadcast, Foster interjected. You've lost your mind. I've lost everything else, Patton screamed. My company, my reputation, my family, my own son turned state's evidence an hour ago. If I'm going down, I'm taking all of you with me. The line went dead. On the monitors, they watched the Prometheus team preparing to breach. They're actually going to do it, Robert said in disbelief. They're going to attack the FBI. No, Foster said, studying the screens. Look at their formation. Half of them are already backing away. Patton's lost control of his own people. She was right. Several Prometheus operatives were lowering their weapons, hands raising in surrender. Others seemed to be arguing with their radios. The assault was fragmenting. Then, from one of the monitors, they saw him, Richard Patton himself, emerging. From a black SUV, the 80-year-old pharmaceutical titan looked haggard, wild-eyed, clutching something in his hand. Is that... Linda started. A dead man's switch, Foster confirmed grimly. Probably connected to explosives. He's completely lost it. Patton raised a megaphone. Sarah Chen, face me. You killed my life's work. Now come out and face me like your father did. Sarah stood. I'm going out there. Absolutely not, Foster said. He just admitted to facing my father. On live stream, with millions watching. Sarah's voice was steady. This ends now. He wants a confrontation. He'll get one. Before anyone could stop her, Sarah was moving. Foster and her team scrambled to follow, but Sarah was already at the entrance. Sarah, no! Linda screamed. Sarah stepped outside, hands visible, facing the man who'd orchestrated her father's murder. The remaining Prometheus operatives trained, weapons on her, but she could see their uncertainty. Their employer was clearly insane, and the whole world was watching. Richard Patton, Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly in the night air. You said my father faced you. Tell everyone how. Patton laughed bitterly. Brave David Chen thought he could change the world with his cheap medicines. I offered him everything, money, position, partnership. He threw it in my face, said medicine should serve humanity, not profit. So you had him killed. I had him stopped. There's a difference. He was going to destroy everything, my company, our entire industry. One man's life against billions in revenue. That's just mathematics. What about the others? Morrison, Williams, the 7 researchers on your list? Necessary sacrifices. They wouldn't listen to reason. Patton's hand trembled on the dead man's. Switch. Just like you won't. But I gave you chances. I offered you money, safety, a life. You chose this. I chose justice, Sarah said simply. Something you'll never understand. Patton raised the device higher. Then you can die for it, just like your father. But before he could act, a shot rang out. Patton jerked, the device falling from his hand as he crumpled. Behind him stood Agent Diana Foster, her service weapon steady. Clear! She shouted as FBI agents swarmed the scene. The device was quickly secured. It was real, connected to enough explosives to level half the block. Patton was still alive, clutching his shoulder, where Foster's precise shot had disarmed him. As paramedics worked on him, he looked up at Sarah with pure hatred. You think you've won? He gasped. Radcliffe is bigger than me. The industry is bigger than all of us. Someone else will take my place. The machine keeps turning. Maybe, Sarah said, kneeling beside him. But they'll think twice before murdering anyone who tries to help people, because now they know someone will stand up. Someone will expose them. The truth will come out. Patton was loaded into an ambulance, still muttering about revenge and market forces. Around them, Prometheus operatives were being arrested, most looking relieved it was over. Several immediately offered to testify in exchange for leniency. Fee-fa. Crisis had passed, but Sarah felt no victory. Too many people had died for this moment. Her father, the other researchers, all the patients who couldn't afford treatment. Justice had come too late for them. Back inside, her family enveloped her in embraces. "You magnificent, reckless fool," Linda whispered, tears streaming. "Your father would be so proud and so furious with you." Agent Foster approached, looking both relieved and exasperated. "That was incredibly stupid and incredibly brave, which seems to be your signature move." "Is it really over?" Evelyn asked. "Patton's arrested, the evidence is public, but the legal battles are just beginning," Foster admitted. "But with Patton's confession on live stream, his son's testimony, and the whistleblower evidence, Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals is finished. The question now is how to ensure this never happens again." Sarah looked at the screens showing news coverage from around the world. Protests at Radcliffe offices, governments promising investigations, patient advocacy groups demanding reform. "It's not over," she said, "but it's a start. Dad's patents can finally help people. That's what matters." Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Your father saved my daughter's life with his affordable insulin. Tonight you saved thousands more. The Chen family are heroes. Thank you." Then another. "My husband died because we couldn't afford treatment. Knowing his killers will face justice helps. Thank you." Message after message poured in. Gratitude, grief, hope. The investigation had exposed more than corporate corruption. It had revealed a system that valued profit over lives, and people were demanding change. "What now?" Robert asked. Sarah looked at her family, her allies, the team that had risked everything for truth. "Now we make sure Dad's work reaches everyone who needs it. We rebuild Chen Technologies not as a company, but as a foundation. Medicine for humanity, not profit." "The Chen Foundation," Linda said softly. "David would like that." As dawn broke over the city, Sarah stood at the window watching the sun rise. The crisis had passed, but the real work was just beginning. Turning her father's dream into reality, ensuring no one else died for cheap medicine. The investigation was complete, the corruption was exposed. But the mission, the one her father had died for, was just beginning, and Sarah Chen was ready for it. The federal courthouse was packed beyond capacity. 3 months after the FBI confrontation, the trial of the century was beginning. Richard Patton faced 17 counts of murder, conspiracy, racketeering, and domestic terrorism. His son, Richard Jr., had pled guilty and was testifying for the prosecution. Marcus Wellington and Jessica Lang had both flipped, providing detailed evidence in exchange for reduced sentences. Sarah sat in the gallery between her mother and Uncle Robert, watching as prosecutor James Morrison, the same man who'd lost his partner to Radcliffe's assassins, laid out the case. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Morrison began, "you will hear evidence of a conspiracy so vast, so cruel, that it defies belief. A pharmaceutical company that murdered 17 researchers to protect its profit margins. That let millions suffer and die rather than allow affordable medicine to reach the market. And at the center of it all, Richard Patton, a man who viewed human life as nothing more than numbers on a balance sheet. The evidence was overwhelming. The whistleblower, Robin, revealed to be Rebecca Patel, Radcliffe's former chief legal counsel, testified via video link from witness protection. She detailed board meetings where murders were planned like corporate mergers. Patton kept a list, she testified. He called it market obstacles. Every researcher who threatened their monopoly went on that list. David Chen was marked for permanent resolution 3 months before his death. Marcus Wellington took the stand on day 3, looking gaunt in his orange jumpsuit. Gone was the confident manipulator who'd fooled Sarah for 3 years. Describe your recruitment, Morrison prompted. Radcliffe identified me in business school, Marcus admitted. They knew Sarah Chen would inherit her father's shares eventually. They groomed me, trained me in seduction and manipulation. My entire relationship with her was scripted by their psychological team. And the plan for after the wedding? Marcus couldn't meet Sarah's eyes. Make her death look accidental within 6 months. Radcliffe had a whole unit dedicated to spousal solutions, wealthy heirs who needed to be separated from their inheritances. The gallery gasped. Sarah felt sick, learning how thoroughly she'd been targeted, how long they'd been planning her death. Jessica Lang's testimony was equally damning. She revealed Radcliffe's network of corrupt officials, the judges and police commissioners on their payroll. She produced recordings of Patton personally ordering hits, discussing body disposal, laughing about thinning the diabetic herd. But the most powerful testimony came from the victims' families. One by one, they told their stories. Dr. Angela Morrison, whose husband had been murdered for developing cheap insulin. The daughter of Dr. Carl Williams, killed for refusing to sell his patents. 15 families in total, each representing a brilliant mind silenced by corporate greed. My father was 32, one woman testified through tears. He just wanted to help people afford their medicine. Radcliffe had him burned, alive in a lab accident. I was 8 years old. By the time Dr. Evelyn Chang took the stand, the jury looked shell-shocked. Evelyn meticulously laid out the technical evidence, how Radcliffe had suppressed cures and treatments that could have saved millions. David Chen's universal vaccine platform alone could prevent 80% of communicable diseases, she explained. It would cost pennies to produce. Radcliffe buried it because vaccines don't create repeat customers like treatments do. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Sarah's testimony. Morrison approached her gently. Miss Chen, tell us about discovering your fiancé's betrayal. Sarah spoke for 3 hours, detailing everything from the wine cellar recording to the attempted murder at her wedding. She played the audio of Marcus and Jessica discussing her father's patents, of Patton threatening her in the hospital, of the conspiracy unfolding piece by piece. How did it feel, Morrison asked, learning that your 3-year relationship was a lie? Like dying, Sarah answered honestly, but also like waking up. Everything suddenly made sense. Marcus's interest in the company, his pushing for the prenup, even small things like discouraging me from getting involved in my father's work. I wasn't a person to him. I was a mission objective. The defense tried to paint her as unstable, vengeful, but the evidence was too strong. When Patton's attorney suggested she'd orchestrated everything for attention, Sarah remained calm. I lost. My father when I was 13, she said. I spent 15 years believing it was an accident. Learning he was murdered, that was devastating. But learning it was preventable, that he died because someone valued money over lives. That's what drove me to expose this. Not revenge. Justice. Richard Patton himself took the stand on the final day against his lawyer's advice. At 81, he looked frail in his suit, but his arrogance remained intact. "I built Radcliffe from nothing," he declared. "We've saved millions of lives with our medications." "At prices most couldn't afford," Morrison countered, while suppressing cheaper alternatives. "That's business, supply and demand. I'm not a charity." "So you admit to prioritizing profits over lives?" "I admit to running a successful company in a capitalist system. If people can't afford treatment, that's not my problem." Morrison pulled up a projection. The list of murdered researchers. "Were these people not your problem either?" Patton's composure finally cracked. "They were trying to destroy everything I built. Decades of work, billions in development. They wanted to give it away for free. That's not just bad business, it's theft." "So you had them killed?" "I protected my interests, my shareholders' interests. That's my job." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel as Patton continued ranting about market forces and necessary evils, essentially confessing to everything while trying to justify it. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, guilty on all counts. As the verdict was read, Sarah felt no triumph, only exhaustion. Justice had been served, but it couldn't bring back the dead. Outside the courthouse, thousands had gathered, diabetics holding pictures of loved ones who'd died unable to afford insulin. Researchers carrying signs reading, "Medicine for humanity, not profit." As Sarah emerged, they began chanting her name. "You gave us hope," one woman said, gripping Sarah's hands. "My daughter has diabetes. Because of you, she'll have affordable insulin. You saved her life." The media frenzy was overwhelming. Every outlet wanted Sarah's story, but she had only one statement: "This isn't about me. It's about the 17 brilliant minds silenced by greed. It's about the millions who've suffered needlessly. Today, we got justice for them. Tomorrow, we continue their work. The Chen Foundation will ensure my father's patents and those of every researcher Radcliffe silenced reach everyone who needs them. Medicine is a human right, not a luxury. That's my father's legacy. That's our mission." But even as she spoke of the future, Sarah noticed something troubling. Several pharmaceutical executives in expensive suits were watching from across the street, taking notes. The machine Patton had spoken of was already adapting, learning from Radcliffe's mistakes. That evening, as the Chen family gathered to process the verdict, Agent Foster arrived with concerning news. 3 other pharmaceutical giants have started internal reviews, she reported, not to clean up their acts, to better hide their crimes. "And there's chatter about targeting the Chen Foundation before it can get established. Let them try," Sarah said firmly. "We exposed one conspiracy. We can expose others." "It's not that simple," Foster warned. "Patton was sloppy, arrogant. The Arkham. Others won't make the same mistakes. They're already restructuring using shell companies, destroying evidence." Sarah looked at her family, her allies. They'd won a major battle, but the war for affordable medicine was far from over. "Then we'd better get to work," she said. "Dad's patents are just the beginning. Every suppressed cure, every buried treatment, we're going to find them all. And this time, we're not fighting alone." She gestured to the window, where supporters still held vigil. Radcliffe thought they could silence a few researchers and maintain their monopoly. They never imagined those researchers' families would unite, that patients would demand change, that the truth would spread faster than they could suppress it. Linda placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Your father would be so proud. You didn't just expose his killers, you've started a movement." Sarah smiled sadly. "The movement Started with him, with every researcher who chose humanity over profit. I just shined a light on it. Now we have to keep that light burning. As night fell, Sarah stood on the balcony overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, researchers were working on new cures. Patients were struggling to afford treatment. Corporations were scheming to protect profits. But things had changed. The truth was no longer hidden. The powerful could no longer kill with impunity. And a network of watchdogs, researchers, patients, activists, stood ready to expose any company that tried to follow Radcliffe's path. "We did it, Dad," Sarah whispered to the sky. "We exposed them all. Your work will save lives. Your death meant something." A shooting star streaked across the darkness. Coincidence, surely, but Sarah chose to see it as a sign. The truth had been exposed. Justice had been served. Now came the harder task, building a world where no one else would die for affordable medicine, where brilliance wasn't silenced by greed, where corporations feared justice more than lost profits. The Chen Foundation would be more than a charity. It would be a guardian, a witness, a warrior for those who couldn't fight themselves. And Sarah Chen, the naive princess who'd become a warrior, was ready to lead that fight. 5 years later, Sarah Chen stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Behind her, a massive screen displayed faces. 17 researchers murdered by Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals, and hundreds more who died trying to make medicine affordable worldwide. She wore a simple black dress and her father's wedding ring on a chain around her neck, having legally annulled her marriage to Marcus Wellington years ago. 5 years ago, I was planning my wedding, Sarah began, her voice carrying through the packed assembly. Today, I stand here as director of the Chen Foundation, representing not just my father's legacy, but a global movement. A movement that says medicine is a human right, not a commodity. The Chen Foundation had grown beyond anyone's imagination. Starting with her father's patents, it had become a repository for suppressed medical research, a protector of scientists, and a manufacturer of affordable treatments. Over 50 countries had partnered with them, and millions of lives had been saved. Radcliffe Pharmaceuticals thought they could murder their way to monopoly, Sarah continued. They were wrong. Every researcher they killed left behind work that we've recovered, developed, and distributed. Every life they took multiplied into thousands saved. She clicked to the next slide, statistics that still amazed her. Insulin now costs $3 per month to produce and distribute through our network. The universal vaccine platform my father developed has prevented over 10 million cases of preventable diseases. Cancer treatments that cost $100,000 now cost $500. This isn't charity, it's justice. The pharmaceutical industry had fought back hard. 3 more companies had been exposed for similar crimes. Executives had been arrested, conspiracies unraveled, but the Chen Foundation had persisted, protected by public support and international law. Sarah's personal transformation had been just as dramatic. The naive event planner who'd believed in fairy tale romance had become a formidable advocate, earning degrees in public health and law while running the foundation. She'd testified before Congress 17 times, survived 4 assassination attempts, and never wavered. But our work isn't finished, she told the assembly. For every conspiracy we expose, another forms. For every life we save, thousands still die needlessly. That's why I'm here today, to propose the Chen Protocol, international legislation that would make suppressing life-saving medicine a crime against humanity. The resolution had been years in the making, backed by evidence from multiple exposed conspiracies. It would create an international tribunal for medical crimes, protect researchers, and ensure open access to essential medicines. As Sarah finished her speech to thunderous applause, she spotted familiar faces in the gallery. Her mother, Linda, now silver-haired but still fierce, running the Foundation's victim support network. Uncle Robert, who transformed Chang Technologies into the Foundation's research arm. Dr. Evelyn Chang, the Foundation's chief scientist, who developed 12 new affordable treatments. Even unexpected allies were there. Rebecca Patel, the former Radcliffe whistleblower, now the Foundation's legal director. Agent Diana Foster, who'd left the FBI to head the Foundation's security. Lily Chen, they'd discovered they were distant cousins, running their digital operations. After the vote, unanimous approval for the Chen Protocol, Sarah was mobbed by delegates and press. But she noticed one figure standing apart, an elderly woman with a cane. "Ms. Chen?" The woman approached slowly. "I'm Margaret Wellington, Marcus's grandmother." Sarah tensed, security moving closer, but the woman raised a peaceful hand. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I came to apologize, and to thank you." She pulled out a photograph, a young girl with bright eyes. "This is my great-granddaughter, Emma. She has type 1 diabetes. Thanks to your foundation, I can afford her insulin. The grandson I raised to be a monster tried to kill you, but you saved his family anyway." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm not saving anyone out of kindness to Marcus. I'm doing it because it's right. I know. That's what makes you different from them. From us." Margaret pressed an envelope into Sarah's hands. "Marcus wrote this from prison. He asked me to give it to you. I'll understand if you burn it unread." That evening in her hotel room overlooking Manhattan, Sarah finally opened Marcus's letter. His handwriting was still perfect, controlled. Even from a federal prison cell. "Sarah, I know I have no right to write to you, no right to anything but your hatred. But I need you to know something. In 3 years of lies, one thing was real. Watching you fight, seeing your strength, your conviction, it changed something in me. I've testified in 12 cases now, exposing every Radcliffe operation I knew about. It won't undo what I did, but maybe it helps. I think about your father often, about the man I helped murder. In prison, I've been teaching inmates to read, helping them get GEDs. It's pathetic compared to what he did, but it's something. I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that your truth didn't just expose corruption. It transformed even someone as lost as me. The naive princess I thought I was manipulating turned out to be the strongest person I've ever known. I'm sorry for everything. Marcus. Sarah read it twice, then carefully folded it away. She felt no forgiveness, but perhaps a small measure of peace. Even Marcus had been changed by the truth. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Her assistant entered with urgent news. "Director Chen, we've received intelligence about a new threat. A consortium of pharmaceutical companies planning something called Project Revival. They're trying to find a way around the Chen Protocol." Sarah smiled grimly. "Of course they are. Schedule a meeting with the security team and contact our media allies. If they want to fight, we'll give them one." As she stood at the window, looking out at the city lights, Sarah reflected on the journey. From a desperate bride discovering betrayal to a global advocate for medical justice. From a daughter mourning her father to a leader carrying on his mission. Her phone buzzed with messages from around the world. A mother in Mumbai, whose child received free vaccines. A diabetic in Detroit who could finally afford insulin. A researcher in Sao Paulo who felt safe to publish his findings. Each message reminded her why she fought, not for revenge, not for glory, but for the simple belief her father had died defending, that healing shouldn't bankrupt the healed. "We did it, Dad," she whispered to the night sky. "We really did it." Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Pharmaceutical giants would regroup, find new ways to prioritize profit over lives. But they would face a different world now, one where murders were exposed, conspiracies unraveled, and a network of guardians stood ready to protect those who dared to heal. Sarah Chen had walked down an aisle 5 years ago expecting to start a new life. She had, just not the one she'd imagined. The naive princess had died that night in the wine cellar. In her place stood a warrior, a protector, a beacon of hope for millions. The transformation was complete. But the mission, ensuring no one else would die for affordable medicine, would continue as long as she drew breath. And somewhere in the city below, in laboratories and clinics around the world, researchers worked freely, safely, knowing that someone was watching over them. That their work would reach those who needed it. That truth, once revealed, could never be fully hidden again. The Chen Protocol was more than legislation. It was a promise that the age of medical monopolies enforced by murder was over. That brilliance would be protected, not silenced. That humanity would triumph over greed. As Sarah prepared for bed, ready to face tomorrow's battles, she smiled. The girl who'd sobbed in a wedding dress 5 years ago would be amazed at who she'd become. But then again, that girl had always had this strength. It just took betrayal to reveal it, conspiracy to forge it, and purpose to wield it. The story that began with a bride catching her groom cheating had become something neither Marcus nor Radcliffe could have imagined. A revolution that changed the world. And it was only the beginning.